right, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Success Podcast. Today again, we have a very special guest here with us. He is a software engineer turned fitness coach. He's also my friend from grade 1, Ayoob Aboosalih. Ayoob, nice to have you here.
Pleasure. I will kind of slightly adjust that. I'm not a software engineer turned coach. I've always been a coach. I did a little stint of software engineering in the middle. And then kind of came back.
Bro, we will talk about your salary there. And then people will understand what the introduction I made.
We'll see.
Because, so I think we can start off there.
Maybe, yeah.
Because when we were in school, you did commerce, but you did IT as one of your subjects, and immediately after you got into software engineering. You did it at IIT. And immediately following that, you got into one of the best companies in Sri Lanka.
Happened to.
Right? You got a thundering salary at that time. And you left that salary to earn 1/10 of it being a fitness coach at that time at least. Bro, how?
But see, that's an interesting one. So even like if you say my IT stuff when I started, right? I think when we left school, I think one of our batchmates and someone also told about they were planning to go to Singapore to do some fitness stuff and blah blah blah, and I found that like super interesting idea. But then I figured if I tell that at home, I already realized what that response is gonna be, and I didn't think obviously that's gonna be entertained, so I just went that route. And obviously I started the coaching 2 years into my 4-year degree, and then by the time degree was finishing, I had already made up my mind that I'm not doing the IT thing and I'm going to go full time. But then the opportunity presented itself, and then I took it, right? But then, so what was happening there? You thundering salary, blah 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 blah, all this, living the dream. That comfort was kind of also a bit scary for me, because there was enough times that I thought, if I want to really progress in this area of my life, I'll have to give it my 100%. And that would mean giving up my coaching at Lahore, because I was balancing being this software engineer plus coach at the same time, which was chaotic. And that freedom of schedule was not as much as I wanted it to be, right? And almost, being in that company was slowly killing my little fitness dreams that I've been just like working towards and, busting my butt off to kind of get going. And that was, I think, one of the motivations to kind of leave. And interestingly enough, where I work right now, I wouldn't have been ever able to kind of afford personal training with the head coach there if I didn't have this thumping salary in the first place. Not like, no way, not even close. It would have never happened even now that it's been like almost 3 years since I left. No chance I would have ever done it, right? So it's interesting how those, paths kind of intertwined and got me here right now.
So I want to talk about one thing. Now, obviously this podcast, this whole channel is focused on English education, public speaking education. When you were doing your degree, obviously your attention was diverted between your software engineering and your fitness. So obviously you were not giving 100% to your degree.
100%.
Right? But obviously, so by that logic, there would have been people that did give their 100%, that were a lot more academically talented than you. Am I right? But you ended up getting probably one of the best offers that came into that university.
Shall we just tell what the company was?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so worked at WSO2, right?
Yeah.
For a short while. And that's interesting enough, right? So, and that is completely spot on, right?
Yeah.
And my employer told me, we knew that about you, but we had faith in like the personality you brought to the interview, right? And so what happened was, our internship year for our degree, that was the 3rd year, COVID hit. So we didn't have this opportunity to get into this career fair that's usually held by my university, right? And because we didn't have that, they started a new thing where they allow also the outgoing batch to join the career fair. Before it was solely for the internship crowd, right? And so that is kind of like that opportunity that when I initially finished my 4th year degree, I thought, this thing is happening, it's free, I might as well just rock up and see what happens, right? So I just brushed up on a little bit on whatever I knew. And when I walked in, the first place that was there, the entrance itself was WSO2, big booth, right? And no one was sitting there, right? And everyone was just so scared to go there. But for me, it was like I only had the fitness thing in the back of my head, so I thought I'll go and sit. I don't care whether I really get it or not, right?
Yeah.
And I spoke. I spoke very confidently. I just had a very, I know this much, this is what I can do, I don't know this stuff, but whatever you give me, I'll try to figure it out and I'll get it done somehow, right? And so that personality and that attitude I had towards my work is what actually was their, determining factor for actually employing me. Funny enough, right? So we have like 5 interviews with first, like I think like senior level and then top technical leads and then HR and vice president, whatnot. Every time I finished my interview, I popped out my wallet, gave them my fitness business card, and told them
What a guy!
I'm a personal. I do fitness coaching as well. You can give me a call.
No way.
And then so my senior guy called my senior who was supervising me. He was like, he always cracks his joke where I saw his stomach and gave him my card.
Shit! Wow.
And so he always, honestly, we knew there were gaps in your technical knowledge. But it's the attitude and how you spoke and your willingness to work, regardless of the job given, that taught us, okay, we'll take this guy on.
How important has the ability to communicate well and have a good personality? How far has it helped you in your journey as a fitness coach?
I think right now, because a big part of my work is these group classes, just being able to be loud, be present, do all the little things within public speaking that we've been taught at drama, just plays such a huge role. And I think when we recently started having like the new coaches coming in, and then I was handling a few of their morning and stuff, and I started to think back of like our public speaking, I started to realize the small things we do without realizing, because it's so ingrained in us from like our public speaking background back in school, right? Standing with a wider stance at the feet, moving slowly or moving definitive, right? So not swaying the arms randomly, talking softly at some point just to bring the attention back, not always shouting. All those little nuance in things is such a huge impact on that entire class experience, right? And I was thinking on the way here today, like there are small kind of adjustments I almost do to my pronunciation to kind of be able to deliver that message to the client I'm speaking. So if I have someone who's a foreigner or American or something, I'll say schedule instead of schedule, right? Director and director. And I just kind of try to make it easy with the kind of sounds they are familiar with hearing, so that my message gets across very fast.
Now, there's a lot of fitness coaches in Sri Lanka, obviously. And now, when we were in school, bro, I think you were the last person anyone expected to be a fitness coach, right? I mean, during our prefix day installation, I have made fun of you, right? So we never expected. To this day, I think now when I introduced you to a fitness coach recently, and one of the first things he told me was, bro, I didn't expect this guy to be as knowledgeable, or I didn't even expect him to be a coach as such. And there are obviously other coaches that are jacked, that are buffed, but you work with such a premium clientele, right? You work with which a lot of other coaches, now I do speaking training, English training for other coaches in Sri Lanka. They would always shy away from approaching such a premium client, right? Especially a foreign client. Let's forget about premium. They'd shy away from approaching a foreign client. How important has your personality or your ability to speak well been when finding new opportunities in this space? And where would you be if you didn't have this ability to speak?
Yeah, I don't think I'd be anywhere if I couldn't speak. It's crazy. So I think I'm also very naturally introverted, and I'm not the greatest when it comes to making like small talk or something, unless we have something to kind of speak about with someone. So that kind of, if I know someone is already into the fitness realm, then I already have my almost sets of questions to almost ask them, right? But I remember I tried the whole small talk thing, I think back in uni or something, where I think I watched some video or something about it, you approach someone, say hi to them, introduce yourself. And I still back in uni, I still remember this day. I went, and so usually uni would be I'll go to class, do my thing, come back. I wouldn't probably talk to anyone unless like my close friends I move with, right? So I went into class. I think there was just a random bugger to my left, and like typical software engineer. I tried to introduce myself to him and he just completely ignored me.
Shit.
Yeah, I know. And he was sitting with me for the entire class. Right?
Yeah.
So that's your typical like stereotypical software engineer, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously I didn't let that, make me, depressed about, okay, I shouldn't talk to anyone or something. I just, kept trying and kept trying and kept trying and kept trying. And it's just that practice. I think even with drama, I think I was categorized as one of those people where acting is okay, but you can't understand a word that comes out of my mouth. Because naturally I tend to speak very fast and not pronounce my words. Right? So I had to very intentionally slow down, bite my words, and really drill that into my system to even fix that. So it's not like I've even ever naturally been good at public speaking. It's just been a ton of reps of just doing it and doing it and doing it. And that has just obviously changed because my entire livelihood depends on me communicating with people. And more than even just being able to communicate, it's like almost understanding how different people use the same words differently. Yeah, so I have to almost change my vocabulary based on who I'm speaking to be able to just again get that message across without maybe insulting someone, offending someone.
So actually this is a public speaking skill called mirroring. So for example, if you are speaking in a very low tone and you're speaking in a very slow pace, usually if I really want to connect with you, I should match that same level of speaking competency. Right? That will make that person feel, oh wow, this person's meeting me where I am, and now I can connect with him more. If someone's speaking broken English, you don't necessarily have to speak broken English, but you can speak a bit slower, you can give him time to understand what you're saying, and they'll immediately feel like, ah, wow, he's connecting with me.
And that's a very subconscious thing that will happen, right?
Exactly. To some people it doesn't happen subconsciously, but I think because we have been mingling with a lot of people and we've been doing theatre and all of that, to us it comes naturally when we start to speak with someone. So the energy you bring is the energy that gets reciprocated to you as well. So that's an interesting point that you brought up. Now, even though you say that in drama it was this and it was that, and maybe you weren't as good when it comes to speaking, you still won an award.
But that was kind of like the turning point, right?
Yeah.
Where we had like those one-on-one mentors, and he literally, like I said, drilled all those things that I was kind of bad at into me. I remember like those days, like you think it'd be easy, but like I was just like 1 hour of working on my pronunciation or something like that, absolutely hammered and like hacked, just brain gone. And so that's how those, even the point of getting the award or anything came about, is because I was able to just like kind of drill and put in the reps. And that is also kind of like how, if you turn back to, you said no one thought I'll be doing coaching and stuff. I think back in school also I wasn't like very naturally inclined with sports or being good at sports, naturally talented that way, right? But I didn't have this idea of, okay, it's just a skill. It's not like some natural talent you're born with or without. You can actually develop that skill. And when I left school is when I realized, okay, if I want to compete in something, I just have to put in the time and it'll eventually happen.
Now, what I have noticed after we've been friends for some time, you're very patient about things and you follow a continuous process with an end goal in mind, which is quite different even to my own self, because I expect results to come fast and I go all in for a short burst of time, and then I struggle to stay consistent. How important is it to actually be patient with something, be consistent, put in the work, whether it's about fitness or speaking, building a personality? How important is that skill?
I think there's almost like, what I think about right now, there's almost like a target hours you need to maybe finish, like whatever they say, 10,000 hours, 10,000 reps, right? You can decide to go all in and try to get that done in a short time, or you can space it out. What I think usually happens for people who try to go all in, they'll end up doing it, but they stop maybe at the 5,000 mark instead of the 10,000 mark. So I think it's also, right now I always think about that end goal and getting that total reps kind of in, and it kind of very eases me. It doesn't put too much pressure on me. Like even if I take my own strength goals, like my targets, I know based on how much work I'm committing right now into my strength work or whatnot, I might need till I'm like maybe 32 or 34 to hit these targets, right? So I already set my mind like that, and that helps me kind of stick to the process without getting frustrated, because sometimes at the end of the day, it's just about getting the work in. The result will come when it comes to a certain extent. Obviously, there are ways to optimize things and work on what's weak for you or whatnot. But as long as the satisfaction almost needs to come from putting the work in itself, as opposed to waiting for the result, because then you accumulate these daily wins, and you almost get this release of dopamine from, hey, I did the work. And if you can like just let yourself feel that win, man, you're fixed.
When you first started doing theatre, you started 1 year after me, right?
1 year after, right? When we did, I came 2015, Macbeth.
That was 2014. Yeah. So when you first acted in front of an audience, were you confident? Were you scared when you had to speak in front of people? What was that experience like?
I think this will tie back into my grade 1 story.
Which is?
My English interview.
Oh, right. You can say that because.
Okay. So that's the level of introversion I had with me. So basically, going into school, they had a interview to allow everyone into English medium, right? And so I didn't speak to strangers at the time or whatever. And so we had the interview with the priest, and I sat there. Again, I could speak the same English at that time because I come from English speaking home, but I just sat there and stared at his face. And then without him alone, they brought the teacher in.
Yeah.
And then I stared at both their faces. And then they let the teacher out, and they brought my mum in.
Yeah.
And then I think I spoke 1 or 2 words or something like that. And so they put me to Sinhala medium because they thought I didn't know English. And I remember it was very hard. I think the first thing that actually brought me out of my shell was doing Cub Scouting. Because even then I remember my mom tried 1 or 2 times to get me to go, but I just stayed with her. I didn't go into the crowd. And I think my experience initially with scouting is what actually got me to stop sitting alone and start talking to other people or doing a few things like that.
And how well did theatre help you to get to where you are today? Because see, one of the biggest experiences that I use when it comes to public speaking training is my theatre background. The fact that I got to be very expressive, over the top expressive, has helped me to tail that down when it comes to speaking to an audience. Now, you might not do public speaking training, but you still have to speak and communicate to a lot of people. How important is that theatre background?
Bro, it's everything. Like, I literally just remember all the things we did on stage and just, like you said, pull it back a little bit or maybe pull it up a little bit. And because again, like I said, we do the group classes and conduct like 20 people, right? Most of these 20 people are adults, right? So you need to obviously get their attention, eyeballs on you, focus, because like if I start communicating about a workout and telling what to do before anyone is completely having their attention solely on me, then during the workout people will be asking me a million questions. Right?
That's true.
So getting everyone's attention for their group class setting is such a huge thing, and you can't just be timid and get that going. You need to have a bit of a power stance. You need to talk loud. You need to maybe switch off the extra music. Wait, if someone is not paying attention, you just stay, and then automatically the crowd will like pressure them to get attention to you, and then from there, communicating that workout, I try to take it with a very say as little as I can approach. So that's almost like I do a bit of pre-planning to make sure, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to say, the few things I'm going to say. And again, I just modulate. So sometimes I bring my voice down to bring the attention in. Sometimes I'll scream louder to get the hype up. But all this, again, the small little nuances we learn in drama about capturing an audience's attention is literally everything I run my group classes on, like nothing else.
Do you think that now you've been in the corporate sector, it might be for a short time, but you were still there. and you work with a lot of people who are directly from the corporate sector, top people. How important is good communication, the ability to speak confidently when it comes to the corporate sector? How important is it for them to grow up in that ladder to be able to speak well?
I think even if you're not like a salesperson or something, if you want to get those leadership roles or whatever, you need to have that ability to be outgoing and coordinate with people, talk to people. Like now, even if you take my software engineering role, same thing. Like more like the stereotypical again software engineer is to themselves and not doing a lot of stuff or pushing out and whatnot, right? You want again these same skills that have made me grow as a coach are the same things that would have made me grow in WSO2 to get like leadership roles and take initiative and stuff like that. So interesting enough, we ran some workshops internally and externally about design and UI UX and all that, and like my presentation stood out compared to the rest of the team. And I'm not saying it just from my this thing. If you take the Google Sheet feedback form, like kept coming, the presentation I did, blah, 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 blah. And interesting enough, I just, who's that like Asian guy who does the public speaking?
Vinjay.
I think that's the guy with glasses, spiky hair, right? I remember I just watched a couple of his videos. I started my presentation with a story. I brought my kittens into it. And I did all kinds of, dramatic flair, right? Just for the fun of it, right? Almost like I want to say about a good 40 to 30% of the presentations were just my extra fluff to, get everyone's attention. And then the message got across, obviously, right? And I gave him a story, took them through that flow, and I finished that story, right? So I think it's definitely huge. Like I don't know how much you can climb up the ladder from just sitting at your desk and not taking initiative.
Because it's interesting that you bring up software engineers, because I get quite a bit of software engineers coming in for our classes. They come in because now they have been offered managerial interviews. They are scared to face it. Plus, they know that if they can't speak well and manage a team, they obviously can't retain that role for long.
100%. So you can't become project manager without being able to speak.
Absolutely.
And that is basically almost your pipeline within software engineers, right? You start as a developer and then you build up blah, 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 and then you end up, your roadmap is to end up managing that project as a whole, right? But you can't get that step if you can't speak.
Now, one of the reasons that people really struggle to speak in English or struggle to speak confidently in English is because they are afraid of what other people might say, right? Now, I told your story also, people didn't believe that you could become a coach. So in that context, how important is your own belief in yourself to improve at speaking or to improve in anything really?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if I've told you this too, but like I had my aunt who's like this mad entrepreneur or whatever, and then I remember while I was still at WSO2, I went to her, right? I just met her once, and then she was talking about the fitness stuff, blah blah blah. And then when I told her about this thing, somewhere anyway, her conversation came to the point where she was like, "If you want to do this and you think it'll work, don't let anyone tell you otherwise." And that is like almost a very cliche Instagram thing you'll see, but when I heard it from her, it hit different, right? And that is like true, because it's so important to just block out the noise. Because in reality, if you take me when I first started coaching, I was maybe I was 100% a lot thinner than this. I wasn't lifting as much, so guaranteed I wasn't looking like a trainer at all, and that's just what it was, right? But then if I gave up then and didn't come all this way, I wouldn't be where I am. I think when if you're first starting off something new, you are anyway in a state of not being that person yet, and you'll have to kind of stick to that process to become this person. Or sometimes I remember someone asked me about, I think one of my previous coaches asked me about why I put my name as Coach Ayoob. You're not a coach.
Oh shoot.
And like this happens a million times, man. Like so many people have told me, I think you need to train a little bit more, stuff like this when I first initially started, right? But sometimes you just gotta like suck it up and take it. And a little bit of delusion in that state is a bit good. Because now when I look at my like videos of us training like 5 years back. I'm like, shit, you know, I look like that. Yeah, you don't realize it then, right? But even now, I'm not the biggest guy you'd see. Oh, you'd think I was this thing. But like when people, you know, get into a room with me, they say, "What's up?"
That is very true. And see, when you are trying to build up anything, now I again use this example in my classes. I gym fairly consistently, right? Maybe 3-4 times a week. But one thing I still haven't been able to get rid of is my craving for food. Which is why I'm still like this. Right? So what I tell my students also is, you need to be disciplined and practice if you want to improve your speaking skills. How important has consistency been for you and for your clients when it comes to achieving certain goals?
I think consistency is like probably the most important thing across the board, right? You can train probably maybe, let's say, once a week, but if you actually just stick to that for the entire year, you'll have way better results than not doing anything at all, right? But then I think consistency, the environment dictates how consistent you can be. Sometimes just being alone by yourself is not the most greatest way, and I think like we started training back together recently, right? And like I told you, I haven't been training as much, and then when I got back into it, all those excuses I was giving myself seemed so lame, because it's not as tough or so hard to get consistent after you kind of get into the flow of things. And I think that's the usual thing with any kind of habit, right? You need to just kind of really suck it up and just stick with it. It'll eventually just become routine. Because if you don't have that consistency and again just put in those hours, you'll never get better. And it's not the thing about it is that you can get insanely better. You don't need anything special. You just need to put in that practice, like nothing else.
And I brought this question up to Niraj as well, the head coach at CrossFit Ceylon. And what I asked him was, you can get in shape in 3 months. If you actually control your diet, if you start working out consistently, 3 months is more than enough to get in good shape. Similarly, if you practice your speaking for 3 months, you can get good, right? But after those 3 months, you'll get your six-pack, you'll get buffed, you'll get jacked, whatever. But if you stop working out for 2 months, everything you gained is also gone. You see 10-day English courses, 20-day English courses, 1-month English courses. In your experience, how practical or impractical is this? And what solution would you give to someone that is trying to learn a language or trying to speak better, speak confidently? What would you tell them?
Okay. So interesting. So this guy inspires me so much these days. Our regular actually cleaner at the gym, Sugu. I mean, he's got super entrepreneurial, blah, blah. His newest thing to me is I'm going to learn English. Because he can't speak English very fluently. He's not too confident. And so what I've done with almost him to an extent is like I told him, I'm going to speak with you only in English. Right? So definitely, I completely agree with you on all these like 10-day, 20-day courses. You can't learn English or a new language in that kind of time frame, right? So you need to kind of figure out and find a system or a setup, some environment where you can go and practice your English. We have our friend, you remember Suhail? From our science class and stuff? The guy wanted to learn Chinese, Mandarin, okay? At the top of his road, there's a little stall run by a Chinese lady. And he used to go there every day, speak with her. He can speak Mandarin, bro.
What?
He can speak proper Mandarin. And all he did was every day or maybe few selected times during the week, he will go, stay with her at the stall and speak with her and learn from her. So you need that commitment. Like if you really want to do it, you just need that commitment. And I think as long as you have that drive, I think drive is the most important thing for consistency. People need to know why they are doing something. Right? And I think on a fitness realm, for the vast majority of things, that why is moving more towards, especially because I kind of train a lot of people older than me, they're married, they have kids, blah, blah, It's really a lot about shifting mindset away from kind of how you look in the mirror, all of this stuff, to knowing, okay, I'm getting my workout in, I have my health sorted, I can take care of my kids until they're old enough, and then, a lot of people tell me, as soon as my kids become 20, I'm okay to die. I just want to be alive till they're 20 or 22, right? They ship them off to uni, I'm done, I've done my job, right? So if you stay, people usually lose their consistency when they're too fixated on their body image or trying to see quick wins week to week, right? Same way with like the speaking stuff. I think you need to know a bigger goal of, why am I doing this? Maybe your English is something that's gonna, put food on the table for your family, right? Which it does for all of us basically, right? Maybe, someone in your family is sick, you need to somehow find a way to make money, pay those extra bills. Something, maybe you want to, chat up a new girl. Something you're working towards, right? You just need to have that reason grounded in you, and I usually get my clients to kind of write it down, so then they can always refer back, because halfway through the process you will forget why you started, and that is where the consistency will either stay or drop. But yeah, I mean, you also work towards a lot of different goals, right? How do you kind of stay with that consistent plan? Or you said you kind of tend to be a little impatient at times.
That has always been a problem for me, because I always, if I feel like something's working, I go all in on it, and then a couple of months in I lose motivation, and then that whole thing just goes away. So one thing that I have now tried to implement in my own life is just being patient, doing the work that needs to be done, and staying consistent. Because I have seen the result of being consistent with certain things. For example, 3 years ago I decided, okay, I'm going to post a short form video every day for as long as I can. And for the past 3 years I've done that. Every day a post has gone out, and I've seen massive growth on TikTok as a result of it. I've seen massive growth on Instagram. Even YouTube, interestingly enough, YouTube was one thing I found very difficult to stay consistent at. So I used to post a video 1 week, then like 3 months later I'll post another one. So I was stagnated at about 800, 900 followers. The beginning of this year, I decided, okay, I'm going to stay consistent with my YouTube content. And from 1,000 views, or rather 1,000 subscribers at the beginning of this year, now we are at 8,600 something, right? Simply not because all my videos are getting a buck ton of views. In fact, like some of the videos you put out gets 1,000 views max. But that accumulates over a period of time to give you something great. And similarly, whenever I teach in a class, what I tell students is you have to keep practicing. I get them to send me videos, I get them to send me voice recordings, and the moment they stop, they see a decline. And that's what I try to get people to understand. Now, we have our 4-month diploma program. And then once they finish that, they can come to our physical classes, which are ongoing year round. And what I tell people is, look, after 4 months, I guarantee you'll be better than what you start. I can guarantee that, because as a coach, I know I'm good. I know I can bring the best out in people when it comes to their speaking. After those 4 months, they don't see me. What happens then? Exactly. They're not going to practice. They're not going to be consistent. Which is why I tell them, hey, you have to come to our physical program and stay consistent with that, because maybe you might not send me videos and you might not send me recordings like you did during the diploma every day, but at least once a week you're still getting that practice. And like you said, if you stick to something consistently once a week, it's better than not doing it at all, right? And I think for anything that, I mean, look at theatre, right? How can we put up a good show? Yeah, to put up a good show, you have to practice 3, 4, 5 times a week and do the same thing over and over and over and over again until we get better. Okay. That's how you put up a show. So similarly, if you're not consistent at something, that's the only thing. I mean, every guy I speak to who's good at their field, all they say is if you do something for long enough, you'll just get better at it. And go ahead.
Do you feel, I think this is also some like a running joke we have about you having too many jobs or doing too many things. Do you feel like even in the public speaking and maybe spoken English or whatever, that realm, sometimes people are trying way too many things and having too many eggs in their basket? And what's kind of like the more, I want to say, low-hanging fruit kind of scenarios that can really help people out?
See, again, it's like this now. When it comes to learning how to speak English. This is one thing that I noticed when it came to spoken English training. People have joined like 10 different programs and they never stick to it. Every teacher is good. Okay, I don't think there are bad teachers. Every teacher might not be every student's cup of tea. But once you find someone, some lecturer or teacher or whoever is training you, you need to stick to their method and do what they say for a consistent period of time. That's the biggest problem I have seen now, even with my public speaking training. I'll give you one example. There is a student who's doing her PhD in America, right? Every time I see her in the class, her eyes are bloodshot red, right? And she has bags like this around her eyes because she's like, it's tough, it's very hard because she has to work, she has to go to uni, she has to study. Doing a PhD is clearly not easy. But she shows up for the 2 hours of the class and she says, the reason I come is because I really love being here. I love these 2 hours. It's very interesting, engaging. I'm sacrificing 2 hours of sleep just so I can be here, right? And because of that simple, she never sends me any videos because she's too busy. She never sends me any practices. But simply by coming for those 2 hours and implementing what I teach in those 2 hours, she has seen a consistent improvement or a considerable improvement in what she's doing. Do you get what I mean? So what happens to most other people is they'll say, okay, I had to put my kids to sleep, so now they don't come for the class. I have work to do, so now I don't come for the class. Sometimes I feel sick, so I don't come for the class. The moment you stop being you start being inconsistent, that is when you cannot achieve anything. So the most low-hanging fruit is that you just need to be consistent at something. The moment you are consistent, you start seeing results. That's what, like, you know, even when it comes to our marketing, for example, people in my marketing team have different ideas that we can implement. My thing is, let's implement all those different things so long as we post one video every day. I don't care, we can try to 100 different variations, but let's post every day. I don't want to change that, and I'm very adamant on that, and that has served me really well over the past 3 years, right? So similarly, I mean, even for you, you compete now in powerlifting events and so on. If you go off your training for like 2 months, you can't lift half the weight you're lifting now, right? Because when you're deadlifting like what, 120, 130 kilos or maybe even more, 3 weeks of not practicing throws you off completely.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that day our training, right? I mean, we were super short on time. I think we just got 20 minutes, something we lifted in and got out, right? It's just getting something in better than, you know, just keeping the thing as a whole. So I think that what most people think is that commitment needs to be this insane, you know, 10 hours a day or whatever, 2 hours a day or whatever. Even with their public speaking, they need to commit like so many times a day. But I think whatever the schedule is, because I, like, from working with my like older clients with, you know, kids and all of that, it's, man, like that whole everyone has the same 24 hours is a bunch of bullshit. Complete utter nonsense. Like, we do not, like, if you're married and you have kids, you do not have the same 24 hours as everyone else, man. Like, no way. And so, like, people like that, it's so important to just kind of obviously make that effort and just find that small pocket where you can get something in that you can stay consistent with your schedule. Because that is going to be very different to everyone. And I think, again, that level of expectation that you have needs to match the level of work that you can put in. Because if you're putting in work every day, you'll get some insane results. If you're putting in work only once a week, then it's going to be a little slower. It doesn't mean you won't see results, right?
One thing that I have seen you do is you have given up everything and you're focused on this one thing. Now that's something, again, even I have quite struggled to do, because one thing is I get a lot of satisfaction from doing different things, and number two, of course, the monetary aspect of it is very lucrative for me. How did you make up your mind to give up everything and then focus on this one goal, and how important was that to your life?
So I think I generally tend to kind of map things out and maybe do the math to a certain extent. Also, I mean, I think I've been fortunate enough to kind of be exposed to all these different ideas and perspectives and concepts, right? And then again, now back when I was at WSO too, right? I'm committed to the job from 9 to 5 or whatever. Obviously, being a engineering job after 5 happens quite more often than not, right? And so I just thought to myself, I just like did the numbers, and I realized, okay, Monday to Friday I have to put in 40 hours a week, right? So 40, 80, 120. If I took that 160 hours a month and put it all into fitness, there must be something wrong with me if it doesn't work out. And it's worked out, so luckily there's nothing wrong with me. But that's how I used to also schedule kind of my day. I literally used to almost do the math, because when I was back in uni and I was managing my like final year project and my uni assessments and blah blah blah, I literally kind of mapped out my entire week and did the maths where I had X amount of hours allocated for this task. Because what would, and like I kept that discipline so much where, let's say I was going to do my research project from like 10 to 12, right? No matter where I started or where I stopped, I'll stop at 12 and move to the next task, because what can happen is I'll end up maybe getting fixated so much on my research project and I'll spend the entire day doing that, neglecting everything else, right? And so I had to be okay with starting a task and not completely finishing it. I think a lot of people get stuck with it. When they start something, they have to finish it to stop doing it. And so I had to almost train my brain to just, I started at 10, stop at 12. It doesn't matter where I stop. I just put a note and say I stopped here, and I move on to the next task. And I think that's important when you're like managing multiple things, because you need to again just allocate those hours into those things. And if you allocate the hours, it gets done. And so that was almost the same logic I used to transition. Like I thought, okay, I have this 160 hours a month. If I took all of that and did only fitness stuff for those 160 hours without, being lazy or slacking, it should pan out.
How do you avoid distraction? Now, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is they're constantly on their phone, scrolling TikTok, doom scrolling. It's tough. How do you keep that focus in your work?
I've just set up my environment that way. So all my social media, there's no notifications. Zero notifications on my phone. My phone is not connected to my watch at all. Right? I mean, I see this at the gym a lot, where people are in the middle of a workout and their phones, they are not even their phone, their watch starts ringing. Right? It's so distracting, right, to them. And so basically, I've just like set my environment in that way. So even when it comes to like my sleep, on my phone and my laptop both, I've set a thing that goes off where my screen color changes or something, and that is just there to remind me, okay, it's time to start knocking off or whatever. And so that is basically how I don't try to rely on myself for anything. I just try to set up that environment so that it'll force me to get what I want to get done. And that is huge. Like when I like us training, like if we didn't set this up, I probably wouldn't have trained. Guaranteed. Even me as a coach, like I'm being so open and honest. Like it's not just because we are a trainer. It doesn't mean we are so excited to work out every day, or we want to work out every day or anything like that. We also just like suck it up and do it for the most part. There are moments within training that are super exciting, but for the most time, showing up and getting through it is like uncomfortable, painful, it hurts. But yeah, I think it's just like, I try not to rely on myself at all. Like I'll have obviously my goals, my why, that purpose, but when it comes to getting work done, I'll just make sure I'm in an environment to get the work done, because if I stay at home, I know I won't get work done. So I go out, I go to a cafe, whatnot. And yeah, man, it's just like I try to just set up environment, because I think trying to rely on yourself is not a good idea at all.
That is true. So to wrap things up, now this is a public speaking audience that we are speaking to, and you're a good communicator, and being a good communicator has got you very far in life. What advice would you finally leave people with in terms of why they should improve their communication skills?
I think when English is not your first or native language, getting that English in your toolkit or that public speaking in your toolkit just opens up so many doors. I think again, we don't appreciate it as much because we come from English speaking homes. and it's not a struggle for us at all. But I think you may have had this conversation with Nirash where he didn't know English at all, and right now he has all foreign clientele, all of that stuff, right? And none of these doors would open up if you don't have your English, right? The entire foreign market runs on the English language, right? So that is just like putting up this huge wall that's just barricading you from kind of progressing in life to a certain extent.
All right, super. Thanks for being here.
No, it's a pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this with a friend, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Till our next video, keep practicing.